Okay, thanks, Susan. And the last question was agreed to be fielded by Scott. So this relates somewhat to the last question, but this one is, what does the institution stand to gain from facilitating interdisciplinary learning? What opportunities does a focus on IDL afford campuses? And what is the impact for students? And Bernadette gave us a little bit of an idea of the impact it have on students, and we're going to challenge and ask maybe the other panelists at some point to provide similar kinds of stories about successful students. But Scott?
Great, thanks. You know, one of the things that that I would hope would change on a campus. So this actually is backtracking just a little bit here, but there's such a close connection between the last two questions. Actually, think the language that we use that surrounds disciplines versus interdisciplinarity is fraught. And you know, one of the things that I would hope would change is actually the way in which we describe the different approaches that we take. If you just think about it, and you've actually, or at least I've actually, heard exactly aspects of this language in the last hour. So when we talk about disciplines, often they're referred to as being rigorous. They're referred to as being hard, deep, focused, curricular, serious. Interdisciplinarity, kind of loosey-goosey, soft, superficial. Aspects of dilettantism, co-curricular. That's like the death knell for anything, if you're referenced as co-curricular, and we operate on a playground. That's fraught language, and with success, there should be a much better understanding of the rigor of interdisciplinarity, of the seriousness of its purpose, of the fact that it is in fact focused, and that it is among the hardest things to actually be doing. Now, you know, getting directly to my question then, you know, what does an institution stand to gain? And you know, it's awfully easy, and hopefully this is true, that one of the things that an institution stands to gain is wads of money. So you know, with any luck, the world comes to your doorstep and with checkbook in hand, and endowments grow, and annual funds grow, and departments thrive under those conditions. And there are few initiatives that have come to my desk as president in which the presenters of them don't tell me that you know, funding my project is a good investment in the college because I promise you donors will flock to your doorstep. And that may in fact be true in this case. I don't want to be overly cynical about this. But having said that, I want to approach this question from a slightly different angle, which is, what do institutions stand to gain independent of whatever resources that might be forthcoming? And the answer strikes me as being pretty straightforward. That if you look at our mission statements, and our mission statements don't differ all that much from each other, as much as we spend a vast amount of energy trying to make our mission statements distinctive. You know, frankly, the difference between Beloit colleges and Ohio States is about razor thin, and that's true for most of our places. And you know, at the core, we're all really trying to help our students go out there and live purposeful lives of consequence. That's really the one-sentence version of what it is that we're trying to achieve. And when in my world, when I go out and talk to alumni, I talk to a lot of alumni on a regular basis, and ask them, what mattered to you about your Beloit College education? Without an exception, what I hear is they learn to think, that they learn to learn, that they learn to communicate, that they can deal with, and here I'm imposing my language a little bit, but they learn to deal with unscripted problems. They learn to appreciate complexity. They became better citizens. They became engaged people. They could navigate a complex world. Those things that our alumni talk about are directly connected to the mission statement of the college. That is the mission statement of the college, and that's heartening. But what's remarkable to me is the degree to which faculty stuck within their disciplinary silos don't see that this is what the list that I just described is the list that our alumni find most valuable about their experiences at our institutions. And why do I think this is important? What do institutions stand to gain? If we're successful, this will connect the institution to its mission far more deeply than what currently is going on our campuses. And that's the most important thing, it seems to me, about what the value of what it is that we're about here today. So that's, those are my quick comments.
Anyone else on the panel like to contribute their thoughts? What's a success for the institution mean?
Well, it seems to me that, you know, excuse me, in today's world, because many of the graduate programs are interdisciplinary and the faculty that are coming out are looking for places where they can explore their work across disciplines, and many students are savvy about what the world ahead is going to be for them, and they're looking for a place that explores complexity and looks across disciplines. Mm-hmm. So it seems to me if you're engaged in this in a good way, it will help you attract the best and the brightest students and the best and the brightest faculty, and that ought to be part of what we stand to gain from this. Yeah.
Anyone else? Have you been thinking about those student success stories? You can keep doing that if you'd like.
Well, you know, this is one of the things, I think the last comment about having our what attracts the best students to each of our campuses. And when I look, I've taught in our honors chemistry sequence, we have some outstanding students. What I find is, you know, I have a student working in my lab right now who's a double major in chemistry and history of art. And what she wants to do is art conservation. And she does look at life very differently. And how do we provide, how do we facilitate that? I mean, it's one thing, she's got 2 different majors. How do we make that connection? And so I've been able to send her to London to work with a colleague of mine who does Raman spectroscopy on art. And so this is something where she's actually been able to do some very specific things. But that falls within the context, again, of the research experience. It's very easy, actually, to come up with research projects that cross the various bounds. Is that part of the undergraduate curriculum? Frankly, no. I mean, it's in the context of disciplines. And I'm still trying to figure out how do we make that connection. And that, by the way, just to serve our students well. How do we provide them the opportunities that they really need in order to have the opportunity even to integrate?
So are you questioning whether or not actually an interdisciplinary program might actually provide more opportunities than the disciplinary approach for doing those?
No, I'm just saying is that I think that our students, our better students see these connections at times. And yet, how do we provide a way to facilitate that? Research opportunities are one, but it's not integral to the curriculum. And that's where I'm having a harder time making the connection.
Mm-hmm. Bernadette?
Yes, interesting that you would mention that, because one of the success stories that we've had is those interdisciplinary kinds of research projects outside of the classroom is what has attracted students to our program. They now come ask us. We started doing a rain garden. So they had to plan and establish this rain garden, but the local community, the local city in Tallahassee has a rain garden project called TAP, thinking about your own personal pollution. So we made that connection with them and the university provided service learning credits or community service credits at the end. And that project helped solidify or kind of garner their thinking as they move forward and gave them that value added kind of experience. Now the alumni and those who support the university thought that was the greatest thing since we learned how to slice bread, was that we actually have learning where students can use it and know that they're doing it right and feel like they're giving back to the environment or doing something that's worthwhile rather than learning chemistry for chemistry's sake.
Mary?
As part of our project, one of the things we put in place were faculty conversations. And these are our times about twice a semester. We bring faculty together from all across campus, all areas, to talk about some fairly broad problem facing society. But one of the things that happened here is that in very early faculty conversation, got two faculty members talking who never would have actually collaborated before probably, an engineer and a biologist, but a civil engineer and a biologist. And they came up with a project that involves microbes and soil and earthquakes and kind of cool connection of stuff. And think about students, how it affects students. This took some students who initially came to Lafayette because they were going to be pre-med. We got a lot of those. Yeah. We're going to go make money. But they want to have research experience on their resume so that it looks good for the med school. And so they came into this project wanting the research experience, but not necessarily wanting to be engineers. And they've gone off now to UC Davis and are working with a centrifuge out there. And they're doing these cool things, and they're coming back thinking, I don't want to be a doctor. I want to solve problems. And it's the coolest responses. They come back, and it's funny, the med schools want them now, right? They don't want to go to med school anymore, but the med schools want them. It's really interesting when those conversations start and those boundaries kind of get blurred and the students are involved and things happen you don't expect.